Today on the Extreme Channel, we're going to see Batman transform from Batman, transform into this, then eventually transforms into this.
Don't give it to you. Wait for you to get it on your own.
We have what may be the final Dark Knight metal statue on my table. So if you're unfamiliar, this Dark Knight metal statue is a DC storyline that I talk about in this video right here. Where essentially the multiverse is going on in all these different Earths. So this is the Batman from Earth 1. Remember, we're from 616. They merge with other DC characters. So I have owned the entire line. I still do, with one exception. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But so he merges with like Green Lantern. You can check out that video. He merges with Flash. Well, this particular statue is kind of an interesting one that Prime One Studio did. So they made it in 1/3 scale, and it's actually kind of a companion piece, maybe, to that giant Devastator statue. So this is where Batman actually took the Doomsday virus, and he merged with Doomsday to defeat Superman. It was this evil version of Superman, which I actually own that statue as well. And this is kind of the predecessor to that, if you will. So this shows him actually kind of transforming. It's the right before he becomes that huge, big, bulking guy. Now, I used to own that bulking guy, obviously. I did a video on it where I compared it to Doomsday right here, the original Prime 1 Doomsday in 3rd scale. And I sold it because I have a rule on my channel. If you want one of my statues and you're willing to offer me crazy great money, and I knew it was a fantastic buyer, so I sold that Devastator statue because I knew I had this one coming in, which will kind of take the place of it. Unless, of course, my wait list converts on Prime 1. So what's really interesting about this statue is, like I said, it's a companion piece, but it's not. Well, there's really two different versions of this statue, and they tell completely different stories. So Prime One Studio only made 110 of these, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. 80 are what I have right here, but it has some switch-out options, and then 30 are the ones that have the switch-out options we're going to look at in the review today. So again, I know it sounds weird, Batman merging with all these different characters. The concept of the storyline is actually pretty cool. It starts off with Batman Who Laughs, which most people have actually heard of. That's the creation of the storyline. In that story, Batman finally kills Joker, and I believe that's our Batman. And Joker releases a toxin that turns him into this evil, sadistic dude who eventually tries to recruit all these different versions of Bruce Wayne. But yeah, so we're going to do a statue review today, and like I said, this is kind of a weird piece on where it's going to fit in the collection. If you want to see what it looks like, check out the Extreme Channel's social media, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I post exclusive content on there. All right, but let's talk about this piece. Now, normally, we kick it off with concept. We're not going to do that. We're going to do concept second because design is more important because the concept changes based on the design, and you'll see what I mean. So first, here is the unboxing and assembly. So it had an outer box, and Spec Fiction did that for me. You're going to see why right here. Here's the inner box. At first I thought it wasn't in really bad shape, but then I saw the other side. I was shocked nothing was actually broken. It smelled a little bit moldy, almost like it got wet on the way over. But it was the black foam, which traditionally they don't use, but it was 2 layers, one with the cape, and then the other with everything else. All right, we're going to measure him. So he is 1/3 scale, 3 times smaller than a real life version. The base is 12 by 12. He juts out a little bit farther than that. So if you're planning display space, and the highest point is probably the blade back here. Since he's hunched over, it's about 17.5 inches. For exact dimensions, you can check out Prime One Studio, who made it, or Spec Fiction. That's where I bought it from. I buy a lot of Prime One from Spec Fiction. So I want to talk about the switch out options because it essentially is two different statues. So I bought the deluxe version, which comes with this additional stuff. But there's a regular version too that's really just Batman. It's before he injects himself with the Doomsday virus. So here's two side-by-side photos of the same but different statue, and we'll talk about those switch outs. So first is obviously the portraits. The first one that comes with all 110 is classic Batman / Bruce Wayne. But if you got the deluxe version, which they made 80 of, you'd get this transformation into Doomsday or Devastator. Same thing with the right arm. The right arm, he's holding the kryptonite spear because he's fighting Superman. He's fighting an evil version of Superman. Or if you got the deluxe version, it's actually the Devastator or Doomsday transformation arm. And then you'll notice the cape. So the cape is optional. And what's really interesting is when you remove the cape, it's kind of hard to get it in there.
That's what she said.
But if you look close here, there are two little, I don't even know what you call these, plastic pieces that you put in place. And they give you a little tiny tool, this guy right here, to actually remove them. So essentially, you display those two little plastic pieces. If it's the Devastator transformation, if it's just the Bruce Wayne, you put the cape on, but you could do either or. So really, it's two different statues in one. And the funny thing is, I actually like the way the regular Bruce Wayne with the kryptonite spear looks way better than this. But this makes a lot more sense in my collection with all the transformation statues. So I will be displaying it like this, but kind of makes you wish you had two because that's a badass statue of just Batman to start with. So with design, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4 out of 5. I think it's clever how they did it. I like the different options they have. I think he's a 1/3 scale statue that doesn't take up too much space. Now, one thing with design I kind of left out is displayability. Even when you're up high, you still get a good visual of him, even though he's hunched over, so I like that. Now let's talk about the concept, and specifically, I'm going to talk more about the concept of the Doomsday, the transformation right here. So it looks like a sub base on the bottom, but it's really not. It's kind of like a temple he's sitting on, and I really like that. It fits well with the rest of the themes. It fits well with the other Dark Knight metal statues. And then it's the really, really big Doomsday theme base, just like that big Devastator had. You have all these rocks and then these bony protrusions coming out because the transformation is in full effect. While that's not actually him, it follows the flow of the statue and everything that was going on. Then you'll notice as you move up, this is Batman from a different universe. So because of that, he's a little bit different than our Batman here on Earth 616, which I really like. I like the texture of his outfit. I like the fact he still has a bat belt. But then you see the transformation of that arm, and it's like half transformed. He doesn't even have his fingers yet. It almost reminds me of like regeneration of some type. And I'm glad they didn't do more than that. I think it looks really good because you can tell really what's going on. And then, of course, the portrait looks great. I love that only half of it is turning into Devastator or Doomsday right now. Then the other half, you see the red eye. I think that looks really, really cool how they did that. Pretty impressed, honestly. I think they did a nice job with the concept here. And especially if you wanted to put it next to that Devastator piece, what would be really cool is if you could put the Bruce Wayne first, then this guy, and then the Devastator next to it, and it'd show the full transformation. You'd have to really be all in on this line and these characters, though. So I think the concept's also a 4 out of 5. They did a really, really nice job. If you followed my channel, Primewood Studio, who makes this, they kind of made their way into statues, making 1/3 scale DC pieces. And that's the majority of what they make. And they do it really, really good. And this is, as I always say, no exception. Check out the video of the paint and sculpt. I want to quickly show you the non-transformation pieces right here. So I think the kryptonite could have been done better. It would be cool if it has a light up feature, but yeah, it looks a little bit cheap, but I do like the spear overall. I'm not going to show you the arm because we'll look at the other arm. And then I think they did a phenomenal job with this portrait. I love his grimace with his teeth and how clean the paint is. I think great flesh tones. I always love a whited out eyes on Batman. And even look at the cowl. Look at the subtle detail in the expression behind the cowl. Makes me think that that is like leather tight. Cape could have been, I hate fabric capes, and this is no exception. You know, it's dirty on the back. Although if it was, you know, displayed on him, you really wouldn't see that part. But it looks kind of cheap. Not a fan. But let's look over here. So again, I love the base. It almost gives this temple vibe. It's kind of cracked in different places. And then you have really different hues of grays and blues, and then a lot of dirt speckled throughout. And I think the stone looks great. Again, cracked just like the base. So it almost feels like it's in motion. And then it almost feels like these could be, I don't want to say ivory, that's the wrong word, but like tusks or bones protruding. Really, really nice, the different shades. And then as you move into Batman, they did a great job on his outfit. Like I said, this isn't your traditional Batman, but you can see his abdominals down there. That's one of the Dark Knight metal symbols right there. But you can see it's a different Batman. He has some scarring and some padding. And I like the different contrast of these different colors, really to give a darker statue a little bit of light to it. He still has a utility belt, which is great. It's very darkened though, because he's been fighting Superman. Pretty dirty battle. You know, and his pose here looks a little awkward, but for some reason it pulls off really, really well. And I love how, again, more detail in the sculpted fabric right here. Very nice job. And then let's look at his portrait. This transformation is so cool. You know, what's neat is you don't see it underneath the suit, but you know it's happening underneath the suit, because as you can see it right there, and then coming up through the neck. So that detail's not lost. And this looks like he's almost in pain. Remember, he volunteered to do this, the Doomsday virus, which is, you know, can you think of Superman having to go against Batman with Batman's intelligence and then against Doomsday's body? Kind of crazy. I love the red eye. And again, a little bit different outfit than Earth 616. And then, of course, the Devastator arm. So they had plenty of practice at this because they made the Devastator, they made the Doomsday prior to that. That Doomsday, I think, is 7 or 8 years old. But I love the colors in this. And if you look, you can see it's very close to that base. They have like some of that brown interlaced in between some light and dark grays. And then, of course, the protruding of these spikes or bones. I think they did a great job on the paint and sculpt, as they usually do. You know what I like about this? Even though it's all these dark colors, I think there's enough contrast to do it justice. So I think the paint is a 4 out of 5. And I know you're wondering, Mr. X, is 4 the only score you can give on your channel? Pretty much, because the sculpt is also a 4 out of 5. I think it was done really, really nice. All right, let's talk about the value of the statue. So it's a 1/3 scale statue, and the Deluxe here, which I made 80 of, retailed for $1,100. The regular was $100 cheaper, so you don't get this Batman portrait or the arm. Clearly, you want to go with this one, unless, like I said, you're doing the entire lineup and you buy both. With such a small edition size, 110 total, right at $1,000. While it's not super elaborate like some of their other 1/3 scale pieces, I think this is a really, really good value. And the fact that this is actually waitlisted and hard to find, I think really says a lot, because a lot of these Dark Knight metal statues, people just never got into the storyline, so they don't understand it. So a lot of them you can get for like half price. So I think the value is also, shocker, 4 out of 5. Now, is this a 5 out of 5 statue overall? It's not a cumulative score. It's not a cumulative score, but I think it's 3 out of 5. I think it's cool. It's the least impressive of all of them. Part of that is because of the size. Part of that is he's hunched over. Part of that is it's not the full transformation. It's not the full transformation. So I do like this a lot. Super happy I have him, especially since I gave up Devastator. I could see owning that large Devastator statue only and not having this, but since I gave him up, I feel like it's a must-have in my collection, which is probably, I don't need any of these, so must-have is probably the wrong word. What are your must-haves? I don't know. That's all I got for today. If you're wondering about the outfit, why am I in a onesie in Broncos? Because it's rare that I'm home, and the Broncos are away, so I'm going to watch football all day in a onesie, Broncos onesie. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Yes, we're still giving away $1,000 statues at every 5,000 subscriber milestone. You have to make sure you're subbed to the channel, you like the video, and then leave a comment. We're going to pick a random comment on a random video and give away those statues. In the meantime, check out some of these other videos and my social media. Talk to you soon. Take care.